Okay, people. Enough talking about Dwayne Haskins. I'll probably talk about him a little bit in this segment right here. But I want to really zero in on Washington's organization. A long time ago, which was roughly 30 to 40 years ago, Washington was categorized as a well-run, great organization. In 1983, that team won a Super Bowl. In 1988, the team won a Super Bowl again. And in 1992, Washington won another Super Bowl. People forget that Washington has won 3 Super Bowls in their franchise history. They've got 3 Super Bowls under their belt. You know, teams like the Browns and the Jets have not won Super Bowls. Washington has won Super Bowls. A long time ago, Washington was looked at as a well-run, great organization. But as of right now, Washington is a bottom-level franchise. When we think of top-of-the-level franchises, we think of the Patriots, the Steelers, teams that are well-run at the top, teams that, spend money in free agency, make the necessary trades, they're not out of control, and they actually have a great infrastructure for their players. Washington, on the other hand, as of right now, the last 25 seasons, they have gotten in the category with the Jaguars and the Jets as teams that are just bottom-level franchises with no stability and no true direction. In fact, in the last 20 years, Washington has only won 1 playoff game. Stable franchises have more than 1 playoff victory in 20 seasons. And Washington, they're in that bottom-level franchise category, unfortunately. And a lot of that has to do with Daniel Snyder, the owner. Now, I think that Daniel Snyder has taken some strides. He finally fired Bruce Allen. And Snyder actually brought in a real head coach in Ron Rivera that has gotten to a Super Bowl and has shown that he's capable of turning around a franchise that is lost. And right now, Washington is a lost franchise. And I do believe that over time, Ron Rivera can turn around Washington's organization. And by the way, I don't agree with Ron Rivera, moving on from Dwayne Haskins, as far as, being the starting quarterback through 4 games. I truly believe Dwayne Haskins has gotten a raw deal in Washington. Like I mentioned earlier, multiple different head coaches that have not been committed to him for 1 second, bad offensive lines, limited weapons. Washington has not spent money in free agency to improve the offensive line. They didn't go out and get Dwayne Haskins another weapon at wide receiver. But either way you slice it, I like the fact that Daniel Snyder is allowing Ron Rivera to do what he wants to do, because Ron Rivera didn't draft Dwayne Haskins. Daniel Snyder drafted Dwayne Haskins. And in years past, Daniel Snyder would probably have said to the head coach on the team, hey, don't bench Dwayne Haskins no matter what. I like the fact that Snyder is allowing Ron Rivera to do what he wants to do, even though I disagree with Ron Rivera benching Dwayne Haskins like I mentioned earlier, okay? But see, here's the thing. While Washington did draft Chase Young, who's going to be a stud for a long time in my opinion, if he stays healthy, while Washington has Ron Rivera, and while Daniel Snyder has somewhat turned the corner, Washington will never fully succeed and fully prosper as a franchise until they truly find a franchise quarterback. And Dwayne Haskins might be that guy. He might not be that guy. So far right now, based on the direction that he's going in, fair or unfair, he might not be the guy. I still believe in Dwayne Haskins, but, you never know. And Kyle Allen, he looked good last year at times. He looked bad last year at times. I don't think he's the future. And Alex Smith, I don't think he's the future either. But getting back to my point, until Washington gets a real franchise quarterback, and until they actually find ways to build around that quarterback, and until Washington is actually patient with a quarterback, they're never going to fully prosper. The Dwayne Haskins story has been a cycle in Washington for the last 20 to 25 years. And Kyle Allen is going to get the start versus the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe Kyle Allen is the future. Right now, I don't believe that he's the future, but if he is, God bless him. But Kyle Allen will mark the 30th starting quarterback to suit up for Washington since 1993. And I'm going to ask you guys this question. When is the last time we have looked at a Washington football team and said they have truly built a real roster around their quarterback? Maybe in the Kirk Cousins days, because you can't really find too many instances where Washington really truly built a real roster around the quarterback, and you can't find too many instances the last 20 to 25 years in which they've actually hit on a quarterback. There's a reason why Washington has had 30 starting quarterbacks since 1993. You want to know why? It's been because of lack of a great infrastructure, lack of a great culture, and lack of great ownership. Washington's biggest problem has been lacking infrastructure. And what do I mean by that? I'm talking about stability, building a culture, having the right head coach for your quarterback, actually building around that quarterback, giving that quarterback actual time to develop properly. That's one of the reasons why I'm so disappointed that Washington is deciding to move, on from Dwayne Haskins as a starter, 4 games into the season, just because I don't think you should judge quarterbacks based on their first 11 starts, especially when you take into account the situation Dwayne Haskins has been put into. If we judged all quarterbacks by their first 11 starts, like I mentioned earlier, that means Peyton Manning's a bust, because Peyton Manning, through his first 11 starts, was doo-doo. He was awful, and Peyton Manning, he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks of all time. You have to give quarterbacks time, and you have to give quarterbacks the right head coach for them, and you actually need to build around a quarterback. When is the last time we've said Washington has had a great offensive line, great wide receiver core around their quarterback? The closest thing you can maybe say is the RG3 days and Kirk Cousins days, and they were impatient with those guys. And obviously there was some unlucky things that bounced, not in Washington's favor, but the common denominator for Washington and their biggest problem has been they have not been patient with their quarterbacks, and they have failed to actually build a real roster around their quarterbacks. You want to know why Tom Brady is successful? He's successful because he's got a good head coach in Bill Belichick. They have never neglected to address the offensive line. He's always had solid wide receiver targets. They've always had a solid system put in place for Tom Brady, and they've always given him a very good defense. Washington, they just have not, fully giving quarterbacks fair chances and fair opportunities, for the past 20 to 25 seasons. And listen, what if Tom Brady landed with Washington? Do you think Tom Brady would have been the same quarterback that he is today? He wouldn't be the same quarterback he is today. You want to know why? Because Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. And you want to know why Tom Brady fully prospered and fully developed? He fully prospered and he fully developed because he had a great head coach that came in and gave Tom Brady a chance, and they built a great infrastructure around Tom Brady. I'm all about knowing what you have at the quarterback position before you actually get them in that building. I looked at Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and I said, this guy is ready to start day number 1. He can come in. He's played in a national championship game. He's got a lot of experience. He's gone through some growing pains. He's properly developed. He's ready to go day number 1. When I looked at Lamar Jackson, I said, this guy's very talented. I like Lamar Jackson, but he needs to sit the bench for a couple weeks. He needs to be properly developed, and he needs to get into a system that allows him to do what he does best. You can't just put Lamar Jackson into any system and ask him to go out there and fully prosper as a rookie. And Baltimore, they realized that. And they said, hey, let's tailor our scheme towards Lamar Jackson. The Baltimore Ravens did not run a Lamar Jackson-friendly offense before Lamar Jackson got there. But John Harbaugh and that coaching staff made the necessary adjustments. And when it comes to Dwayne Haskins, Washington should have known that Dwayne Haskins only started 1 year of college football, that he was inexperienced. They should have known that he's more of a throwback pocket passer. He plays more like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady rather than playing like Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson. Dwayne Haskins is more of your pocket passer. They needed to address the offensive line. They've yet to address the offensive line for that guy. And ultimately, they've failed Dwayne Haskins, and they failed a lot of quarterbacks very similar to Dwayne Haskins until Washington actually finds a franchise quarterback that is legit, and until they actually build a great infrastructure around that quarterback, and until Washington actually is patient with a quarterback, they will never fully prosper. That has been Washington's biggest problem over the past 20 to 25 years, and until they fix those problems, they will never fully prosper as a franchise. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.